Namaskar everyone, Jai Hind and welcome back to National Security Live. I'm your host and this is episode 9. In our previous episode of National Security Live, we discussed that may not look like a traditional national security issue at all. We discussed about something very delicate which actually we termed or Palki Sharma Upadhyaya she termed as uninformed generation. We asked whether algorithms, reels, misinformation and information warfare etc. if they could create vulnerabilities for a country. But today I want to take the discussion to one step forward. Today I want to ask you a very important question. Who controls your digital life? Just think about it. Who controls your digital life? You wake up, you pick up your smartphone, you use your internet, maybe you make some UPI payment or use your Google Map, maybe send a WhatsApp message or watch something on YouTube. You use cloud storage. You can ask your AI chatbot, let's say to Gemini, ChatGPT, to Claude, maybe to Perplexity, maybe to any other AI. You can ask your any AI chatbot any questions. You can store photographs to your drives, let's say Google Drive, Samsung Drive, or maybe iCloud Drive. You can even access government services online. You probably don't think about any of this, whatever you said, from making whatever I said, like making UPI payment, from you waking up to picking up your smartphone, using the internet or accessing the government service, storing your stuffs on the cloud. Have you ever thought that about have you ever actually thought about national security while using these stuffs, whether they impact national security? Did you think about it? But actually it is something to think about, because increasingly our national power is built on digital infrastructure, and that brings us to today's topic, that is digital sovereignty. And the biggest question, who really controls India's digital future? So welcome to Gyanonymous School. Welcome to National Security Live Lecture 9. And before I gonna begin it, I would like to request our viewers kindly to switch to 1.5x for a better experience. And today I am having a new avatar, and please do comment if you like it. Anyway, so let's begin. What does sovereignty actually mean? Before we understand digital sovereignty, let's understand what is sovereign nation, or what is actually sovereignty mean itself. What do you mean by sovereignty? Traditionally, sovereignty it means the supreme authority of a state over its own territory and over its population. If a country has a territory, if it has defined borders, if it has a government, if it has laws, and if it has the ability to protect its territorial integrity, so it is said to have the country said to have digital sovereignty. For centuries, national security was therefore primarily geographical. It was related to geographical sovereignty. If someone crossed your border illegally, that was a security issue. Or even still, this is a security issue. If an enemy army occupy your territory, it was a big issue then, and even it is now a big issue then. But before, like 1 or 2 decades, it was the only issues mainly, the like crossing the border or occupying a territory. It was the or such situations were the primary national security issues. But now something has really changed. The as the battlefield expanded, the body, even the border still comes important, the army is still important, the air force is still important, even the navy is still important, but now the data center, they also become strategically very important. Let's say the semiconductor factory, which also has become strategically important. The cloud infrastructure, it has also become strategically important. The AI model, which has similarly become such an important strategy or strategic asset for us. And even the database also become of something of strategic value. So the evolution of national security, if we go to the evolution of national security, it has gone from territory to infrastructure to information to data. It began with the territory, then gone through infrastructure and data. Sorry, from infrastructure, then it came to information, and from information it came to data. So let's look into the evolution of national sovereignty or evolution of national security. The phase one was actually territorial sovereignty. It is still there, where the fundamental question was who controls the land, or here the borders were the primary expression of sovereignty. That was phase one. In phase two, it was like economic sovereignty, when countries realize that who controls the critical resources and economic infrastructure like the oil, gas fields, maybe minerals, ports, trade routes, even energy and supply chains. Also economic dependence could become a very strategic dependence. If a country is dependent economically on another country, it also come like strategically dependent on that particular country. That was phase two. On phase three, it came information sovereignty. Like it began with the starting of radio communication, then came television, then came satellite communication, later on the internet. So information has boomed. The information has itself become a strategic asset. And today, after we are going a step ahead of information, we are moving into data sovereignty. So now we question who controls the data, where we store it, who can access it, who process it, under which jurisdiction, or under the jurisdiction of which country it operates, the data center operates, who officially owns the jurisdiction, who officially owns the infrastructure facility. And perhaps the most important question is that who can turn that data into a strategic power in certain circumstances, who can turn that data infrastructure into a strategic power. So now you see how national security has evolved from territorial sovereignty to economic sovereignty to information sovereignty, and now coming to data sovereignty. So why data is regarded as national security asset or an important factor of national security? Let's give you a simple example. We know that India having millions of citizens using digital platform. Let's say UPI transaction. Every transaction creates data. Every UPI transaction, you can say it has a transaction number, transaction ID, right? If we search Google or any AI or any search engine, it also creates a data, some kind of history. Even every location enabled service like your phone or your laptop, iPad, who can access your location, it creates data, like in this location at particular time this phone is, or this phone was. So whenever the location changes, the data, the new data is being generated, and every app who uses such location, it generates new data. So every digital platforms create data. Every government service interaction create data. So individually these pieces may be very insignificant. You can see that I do have only 128 GB data on my phone. I do have only like 256 data, and out of them most of the free. I have only 50 GB data which I use in my phone. But when we make it as a collective data, when you say in India millions of smartphone, probably billion of smartphone is there. When a billion of smartphone users data are collectively collected, they are collectively analyzed, we can say that such data can reveal patterns like economic behavior of certain section of people, mobility of certain section of people, like consumer behavior, maybe infrastructure uses, social trends, and various vulnerable data, and not only evil elements but even various corporate agents or various corporate houses can exploit such vulnerabilities in terms of good vulnerabilities, and in terms of good possibilities, and in terms of bad vulnerabilities too. So data, it isn't simply information stored inside a computer. Data at present day, it has become intelligence, and intelligence can actually become power. So what is digital sovereignty now? What exactly do we mean by digital sovereignty? In simple terms, digital sovereignty is the ability of a country to maintain meaningful control over the digital technologies, over its digital infrastructure, over data and capabilities that are strategically important to its society and national interest. That actually doesn't necessarily mean that that particular country, let's say India, we must build everything from infrastructure to all capabilities to all LLMs, and everything we have to build. No, it is not like that. We should be realistic. Digital sovereignty, it doesn't mean digital isolation. It means strategic dependence should not become strategic vulnerability. For example, if a country A depends for data on country B, the country A shouldn't be vulnerable strategically. The country A should not be strategically vulnerable with respect to the country B. That's the key distinction. So if we now go to another question, that is the cloud question. When we take on the cloud computing, like, where is your data? You may think it's in the cloud. We often see it's in the cloud, like iCloud services and various platforms. Now we have cloud, but actually for non-technical persons and first viewers, cloud is not actually cloud in the sky. It is actually on someone else's computer. It is stored, your data is stored in someone else's computer. You see how dangerous it can be. Your data is stored in someone else's computer. This is cloud in simple language. Maybe under some jurisdiction that where you are not there. Let's say your data is in let's say in Austria, maybe in Sweden, maybe in Hungary, where you are here in India, but your data is in, let's say, in Hungary or in Switzerland or in Czech Republic. Whatever law is applicable to you here in India, they may not be same applicable to you or to any person there in Czech Republic, Hungary or Australia. So this is the conflict of legal jurisdiction with respect to data. if you imagine a country completely dependent on foreign cloud infrastructure for even critical government, financial and defense as well as strategic services, you see how vulnerable that country be. What happens if geographical relation deteriorate? What happens if access is suddenly restricted? What happens if infrastructure is attacked? We have seen that in recent Middle East conflict, how data centers are being attacked in UAE and other countries. What happens if sanctions are imposed? What happens if a major provider suddenly suffers a catastrophic outage? Maybe it bankrupt, maybe there was some strategic problem in that particular service provider and it gone down. What happens to your data? This is where digital sovereignty becomes a strategic question. If you look into through the India's famous example, that is India's payment data example, let's say UPI and all, India actually it has already recognized that certain categories of data require special treatment. Let's take for Indian payment information. The Reserve Bank of India actually they directed that the payment system operators, it came in 2018, they directed the operators even to banks to store the entire data related to the payment systems, that is the information of transactions and SWIFT systems, all the system of data that Indian customers do, to store in the systems located in India. Of course, subject to special exceptions for foreign leg of transactions, if that transaction involve some foreign currency or maybe some particular provisions. If foreign exchange is involved, there may be some exceptional circumstances, but in general any transaction which goes inside India, the data must be stored inside India. So why Reserve Bank of India did it? Because payment data, the data about payment, it's not only about money, it's about economic activity. It's about millions of, actually billions of Indians who have been digitally every month, every year, every month actually there's billions of transactions. So if with big data analysis people can analyze how much money one is spending, with that we can know that a particular district has maybe having this kind of economy, or the particular family even, or the particular geographical location having such kind of economic activities. So why we let other people around the world to know about our economic activities? And therefore financial data has strategic value. This is a very important example of how data localization it intersects with regulation, with resilience and with national interest. Now coming to another point, that is data localization and digital sovereignty. Are they both same? The data localization and digital sovereignty, are they both same? No, they are not the same. Data localization and digital sovereignty are not the same. Let me make an important distinction. People often use the term like data localization and data sovereignty. They just interchange. They think that both are identical, but they aren't. Data localization actually asks where the data is stored. Simply, where the data is stored. On the other hand, digital sovereignty, it asks questions in a much broad scenario, like who controls the complete data ecosystem. So data localization is a very simple manner. You can, in analogy, you can say that data localization is simply like analogous to logistics, and data sovereignty is analogous to supply chain management, the SCM. If you make an analogy, if you have good knowledge about logistics or basic knowledge of logistics and supply chain, then you will know that data localization is simply like logistics, and data sovereignty is the whole ecosystem, the supply chain management. let's say that your data is physically stored in India. Your data is stored in India. Let's say that, okay? But the technology where it is stored, the cloud technology, the chips, the operating system, the AI models, the cyber security tools, the hardware, the software, if you are the Indian company who is storing data here in India, if that particular company is completely dependent on the foreign ecosystem, then can we call this as completely data sovereign? Are we completely data sovereign country? Probably not. So data localization is one component of digital sovereignty. It is not the whole thing. Digital sovereignty is about the whole ecosystem, while data localization is just a part of it. It's similarly analogous to logistics and supply chain management. That is data localization and data sovereignty. So probably you have understand that. If you don't understand, if you have any doubt, please ask me on the comment box. I would be ready to answer you. So now let's move to another field, the AI, the artificial. If you are going with data sovereignty, and if we don't discuss about AI, data sovereignty will be actually incomplete, right? In the present context. This is the most important part of today's discussion actually, the artificial intelligence. AI, what AI requires? AI requires three fundamental components. One is data, two is the computing power, and three is model. Data, computing power, and model, DCM. AI requires three things, that is DCM, data, computing power, and models. So whoever actually has the high quality data, the highest computational capacity, and who develops the powerful models, he or she or that company or that country can acquire enormous economic and strategic power. That is why AI is no longer just a simple technology boom, or it's not just a technology sector. It has been increasingly connected with defense, with intelligence, healthcare, finance, education, governance, cyber security, manufacturing sectors, national competitiveness, and everywhere. So this is AI, which is no longer just a technology. It's no longer just a aiding tool. It impacts us in wholesome manner. As we have said, from defense to manufacturing, governance, education, national competitiveness, everywhere. So as we have learned a lot more things from data localization, data sovereignty, from AI to all other things so far, whatever we have learned, let's ask important questions, since it is the national security as we are discussing from Indian point of view. What is India doing? Where does India stand? That's a big question, right? So India has been building various elements of its own for its completely sovereign digital ecosystem. Actually, we have seen like Aadhaar system, which is mostly, I don't know how much percentage of Aadhaar is indigenous, but it claims that it's completely indigenous. The data is completely stored, but still there are a lot more news comes out, so I have not researched on that. However, UPI, I have found that it is completely stored in Indian data centers. All the information of UPI and handled by India, designed by India, implemented by India, everything is done in India. Similarly, DigiLocker and all other platforms like MyGovIn or Gov.in, all digital platforms. So India is also trying to build capabilities in various other emerging technologies like AI, in machine learning and big data analysis also. India AI mission, it was actually approved in 2024 with maybe around 10,000 crore, probably, yeah, 10,000 crore rupees to outlay over 5 years, with pillars including like computing capacity, foundation models, data sets, applications, maybe future skills, startup financing, and safe and trusted UA, and a lot more things. It's the India AI mission is kind to be like a parallel of digital India mission, and it's from 2024, in next 5 years, it's gonna be a big impactful mission in India. And government's AI infrastructure push has actually expanded significantly. Official updates in 2026 in certain recent reports shows that more than 38,000 GPUs, that is graphic processing units, it has been onboarded, even though it's just 10,000 planned at the beginning. So this is important because AI sovereignty, it requires the compute sovereignty, the computational power of that particular country, or the compute sovereignty. So you can build a serious AI ecosystem if you don't have the access to serious computing infrastructure. So that's all. We have now started where now we got to know that where does India stand. And now before actually moving, we'll move to the other parts, that is about semiconductors and other in the next part, because this is going to be a long lecture and I will not be able to cover it in one session. So there will be part B of this lecture on digital sovereignty. So thank you very much for joining. If you have any questions, you can please write in the comment box, and please like these videos and share the video with your near and dear ones, whoever you have common interest with. And thank you. Jai Hind. Vande Mataram.